Hello, class! Today we're talking about the late Baroque opera. With the beginning of the 17th century, opera was born and became the most popular genre throughout the century. Its popularity continued well into the 18th century. Italy and France had already established their own operatic styles in the 17th century and carried on those traditions. Meanwhile, German-speaking composers imitate the Italian and French styles while also blending them with their own traditions. In this way, they prepared the ground for the great composer of the 18th century and beyond, such as Bach, Handel, and Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven. In the mid-17th century, public opera houses were successfully established in cities like Venice, Florence, and Milan, making them the main centers of opera in Italy. By the late 17th century, however, Naples, or Napoli, though it had encountered opera later than other cities, rose to become a new center of Italian opera. In Neapolitan opera, recitative was divided into different types. Recitativo secco, accompanied only by keyboard, was mainly used to convey the plot, the story. Recitativo accompagnato, accompanied by the orchestra, was used for more dramatic scenes. In addition, recitativo arioso, a more expressive form that blended some of the emotional qualities of an aria, was also developed.
Es begab sich aber zu der Zeit, dass ein Gebot von dem Kaiser Augusto ausging, dass alle Welt geschätzet würde. Und jedermann ging, dass sich schätzen ließe, ein jeglicher in seiner Stadt. Da machte sich auch auf Josef aus Galiläa. Wird mein Liebster Bräutigam, wird der Held aus Davids Stamm, zum Trost, zum Heil der neugeboren werden. Nun wird der Stern aus Jakob scheinen, sein Strähbrichschor wird fallen auf Zion und verlassen das Weinen.
So let me explain more detail about recitativo secco and recitativo accompagnato. First, recitativo secco is accompanied only by keyboard, usually harpsichord, and was used primarily to convey plot and dialogue. And it was simple, speech-like delivery using minimal musical accompaniment. And it also allowed for clear delivery of text because nothing was interfering during the accompaniment. And most importantly, it moved the story forward efficiently. And we have recitativo accompagnato. As we can see in the name itself, it is accompanied by the full orchestra. And it was used for more dramatic and emotional scenes. So it was more musically elaborate than secco. So the orchestra underscored important dramatic moments by creating heightened emotional intensity. So it was emotionally intense. and it often used for pivotal plot points, important story points, so it provided richer musical texture. Opera kept developing in the 17th and 18th centuries, and gradually, two main directions became clear: opera seria and opera buffa. They didn't just suddenly appear as completely new genres. Opera seria, which means serious opera, focused on stories from history or mythology. The characters were usually kings, gods, or heroes, and the themes were serious and noble. The music also reflected this with long, elaborate arias that showed off the singer's technique. This style was mainly aimed at the aristocracy, the noble. On the other side, opera buffa, or comic opera, developed as a contrast. It was the opposite from the opera seria. The stories were about everyday people like us and everyday life, while often poking fun at society. It was lighter, more entertaining, and accessible to the general public. The arias were shorter and catchier, making it easier for the audience to follow the drama. So, if you look at this chart, you can see the contrast. Opera seria is serious, heroic for the nobles. Opera buffa is comic, everyday, and for a wider audience. Both grew from the same opera tradition, but evolved, developed in very different directions.
Es begab sich aber zu der Zeit, dass ein Gebot von dem Kaiser Augusto ausging, dass alle Welt geschätzet würde. Und jedermann ging, dass sich schätzen ließe, ein jeglicher in seiner Stadt. Da machte sich auch auf Josef aus Galiläa, aus der Stadt Nazareth in das jüdische Land, zur Stadt David, die da heißt Bethlehem.
In short, opera seria is serious and heroic, while opera buffa is comic and down to earth. In opera seria, the role of the aria became very important, which made the ability of solo singers especially important. The da capo aria can be seen as a result of this trend. In the ABA form of the da capo aria, do you remember? When the singer repeats the second A section, singers of the time often added elaborate techniques and ornamentation to make their performance more dazzling. They would include trills and other ornaments, or even sing the passage on octave higher. At this time, the most famous singers were the castrati. Because of this trend, composers even intentionally wrote arias in a slow tempo, giving singers the opportunity to add virtuosic techniques and ornamentation. Exsultate Jubilate was actually composed by Mozart for his friend, the castrato singer Venanzio Rauzzini. Let's listen to the first movement of Exsultate Jubilate by Mozart. At this time, late Baroque operas began to have fictional and exaggerated plots. So some writers called librettists, and the opera script is called a libretto, so the writers are librettists. They started creating more reasonable and morally instructive stories. So these reforms, these changes, aimed to bring greater dramatic coherence to opera. So the libretto, the opera script, gained importance as a literary work. So good librettos balanced poetic beauty with dramatic effectiveness. So among the writers, Pietro Metastasio was one of the most influential librettists. He wrote a total of 27 librettos, and over 800 operas were based on his texts. We're talking about Handel again. So Handel moved to London, England, at the age of 27 and became a naturalized British citizen and lived in England until his death. In London, he achieved great success as an opera composer. His Italian-style operas attracted many noble audiences. He combined German thoroughness with Italian melodic beauty. So he basically blended well the Italian style and the German style.
Non vuol traggino
Also, when opera declined in popularity, he turned to composing oratorios, which became highly popular and rivaled opera. I am pretty sure you remember Handel's oratorios like Messiah. Although he was originally from Germany, he was respected by the English as a composer who truly represented England. So Handel composed a total of 42 operas during his career. The majority of these were written for the London stage, where he achieved significant success. His first opera, composed specifically for London, was Rinaldo in 1711, which marked his breakthrough in the city. Over the years, he continued to compose numerous operas, contributing significantly to the development of opera in England during the Baroque period. So let's review the oratorios by Handel. Basically, when Italian opera declined in popularity, Handel adapted. He began composing English language oratorios, and these works maintained operatic drama without staging. So oratorios appealed to the growing middle-class audience, not the noble. The Royal Academy of Music was established in February 1719 during George Friedrich Handel's residence at Cannons. It was founded by a group of aristocrats, the nobles, to ensure a steady supply of opera seria. So Handel was appointed as the master of the orchestra, responsible for engaging soloists, adapting operas from abroad, and providing librettis, the scripts, often sourced from Italy. So this is basically a private opera company. So this academy operated as a joint stock company under a 21-year charter granted by King George I. Although it lasted only 9 seasons, it played a very important role in London's musical landscape. Handel composed several notable operas for the Academy, including Radamisto, Giulio Cesare, and Rodelinda. And he continued to be associated with the Academy until its dissolution in 1734. While Handel was making his name as an opera composer in England, across the English Channel, in France, the most important and influential composer was Jean-Philippe Rameau. Born in Dijon, he first worked as a harpsichordist and organist. In 1723, he moved to Paris, France, where he began his career as a composer. At the late age of 50, Rameau began to gain fame with his first opera, Hippolyte et Aricie. After this, he composed over 30 stage works, including both ballet and operas. Rameau's Hippolyte et Aricie shocked audiences because its harmony and orchestration were much more complex and dramatic than what they were used to. Some people thought, it was too bold. And some people admire because it was innovation, new change. And its powerful drama and colorful orchestral effects caused a stir in Paris. People were talking about his opera. So, supporters of Lully, do you remember him? The composer that was before Rameau. Those people thought it had too many dissonances and unusual melodies. But some people even called it Baroque, meaning it's weird and bizarre. So this was actually the first time in history that the word Baroque was used to describe art. Okay, now let's just listen to an aria from Act 4 of Rameau's Hippolyte et Aricie. It's titled A Faudil, and it's sung by the character named Phèdre. As you listen, just pay attention to how Rameau uses dissonance. The quarrel of the comic actors. In French, it's read Querelle des Bouffons, was a heated debate in Paris during the 1750s about the merits of French opera versus Italian opera. So it was basically a fight. Which one is better, French or Italian opera? So the supporters of Italian opera favored its natural melodies, comic storylines, and emotional expression, while the lovers of French opera praised its grandeur, dance, ballet, and its spectacle. This fight, this controversy, reflected the broader cultural tensions between tradition and innovation in 18th century music. And one of Rameau's most important achievements was writing a music theory book that laid the foundation of modern harmony. It is called Treatise on Harmony. All right, let's finish up today's lesson by pulling everything together. Opera was born at the start of the 1600s, and by the late Baroque period, it had spread all over Europe. Each country gave opera its own style, tradition, and flavor. In Italy, opera became very organized. Composers treated different types of recitative, some simple, some dramatic, some in between. You remember? Recitativo secco, recitativo accompagnato, recitativo arioso, right? They also developed two big styles, opera seria and opera buffa. Remember? In England, Handel moved from Germany to London and became one of the most famous composers of his time. He wrote over 40 operas, and for a while he was the star of the London stage. Later, when people grew tired of opera, Handel turned to writing oratorios, and those became just as popular as opera. The most important oratorios, what is it? Messiah. In France, Jean-Philippe Rameau became the most important composer. He wrote his first opera at age 50, but it shocked people because the music was so dramatic and full of dissonances. Some loved it, some thought it was too strange, and one critic even called it Baroque. What was the title of that opera? Hippolyte et Aricie. Okay? And here's the important thing. Everything we learned today prepared the way for the next generation. For the next semester, we're going to talk about the classical composers like Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven. So, when you think about opera in the late Baroque, remember this. It was more than just entertainment. It was a big cultural force that helped shape the future of music. Okay, class, that's it. See you next time. Bye.